want to change your life, but you keep getting stuck right when you're trying to start. You read the books, you watch the videos, you set the big goals, but nothing seems to stick. And then the discouragement creeps in. You doubt yourself. You decide to keep wanting your dreams, but not take action on them. Does this sound familiar? If so, I've got great news. You don't need more motivation. You don't need more time. You just need a better process. And today, I'm going to be working on giving you guys the exact mindset that you're going to be able to use to reach these goals that you've been struggling with for so long. Without further ado, let's get into it. I am about to take you through 5 steps for starting your personal development journey and doing it the right way. These aren't just random tips. These are the things that ended up making the biggest difference in my life when I started trying to do everything that I could to improve. I read a lot, and I'm always excited to try the new things that I've learned recently. Some of them work brilliantly, and some of them just don't seem to stick with me at all. Some things seem wonderful in theory, but when it comes to actually going through with the process, it's just not something I'm able to maintain. I know what it feels like to try something that I really want to do, and it just isn't working. I know what it's like. I know what you're going through when you're trying to implement something new and it's just not working. So this is a list of the things that really, truly have worked for me so far in my journey. After going over each of these items, I'm going to be trying to give at least one action step that you can take home with you to try to improve yourself. And you can try to do it today and then maintain it forever. Each of these steps is designed to do one thing, and that's to help you start feeling unstuck so that you can start making real progress. Before you fix your life, you have to know what's broken. But there's one thing that's even more important to think about, and that is the deeper understanding to why you need to make a change. Introspection. What truly needs to change and why? A lot of people, when they start their personal development journey, they start making that list of like, oh, here are all the things that I need to change. And like, it's a big list. I need to change everything. But the real effect doesn't come from knowing what you need to change. It really comes down to why you need to make that change. A surface level motivation is not enough to sustain a lasting effort. You need to dig deep into the cause behind things. You need to dig deep behind the emotional reason that you need to make a change. It has to be emotional. It has to be personal. It has to be practical, but it has to in some way have an impact on your life that you can almost feel when you think about it. It's not about fixing a problem, it's imagining the change in your quality of life when this problem is fixed, and then imagining the emotional or psychological benefit that that is going to have on you. If you don't truly define the problem and understand what you're really trying to work at, you're going to have a very hard time solving the problem. So what's our action step? What can we do about this? And it comes back to a very simple personal development process called journaling. Write things down. Take 10 minutes today, right after this video, and start to write down a few things. Number 1, what's frustrating me about my life right now? Number 2, why do I need this to change? Meaning, how's it affecting my health, my happiness, my quality of life? Next, write down, what is it going to feel like when I solve this problem? What's the dramatic impact that I'm aiming for? And lastly, try to think about the problems that we might run into. If I start fixing this, will something in my life possibly derail me from the progress that I'm making? And yes, part of this process is to physically write it down, journal it. Try to make this a process of like waking up in the morning. You wake up and no, you're not just thinking about all the things that are wrong, but write things down. Write down the progress that you're making. There's a lot of studies that demonstrate that writing things down can help you get clarity, can help you understand things better, and it's going to be a helpful reminder to have it physically available whenever you need to look at it. And then even more so, based on David Allen's book called Getting Things Done, one of the first parts of the book, he talks about writing everything down because if you do not, it's going to take up mental energy. it's going to distract you from making the actual progress that you're trying to make. So, like, if you're actually thinking about the stuff, but it's not written down, then it's probably just going to pop up over and over when it's not a convenient time for you to be thinking about this. So, if your motivation is weak or if it's vague, you're probably going to quit the second that things get hard. But if you can see and feel the change before it happens, you are almost dialed into success. In Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, there's a quote that's one of the most widely represented quotes out there for people who like struggle getting over the difficulty of doing things. The quote is, "He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how." Meaning, if you want it bad enough, if you have a why that's strong enough, doesn't matter how you're going to get there, you're going to get there. And this is the same with, enduring challenges when we're trying to make ourselves better. If we're just trying to get better when it's convenient, when it's not, we don't. And there's more on that in number 2. So to summarize, as a quick example, what needs to change? I need to get in shape. Okay, until it's inconvenient. Why does this need to change? Because I'm tired all the time. Because I'm not showing up in the way that I know I should in my relationship at home. Because I don't feel good about myself and I'm lacking confidence. I feel like my energy is being pulled away from the things that I really care about. What will it feel like when I can make this change? Feel strong, confident. I'll feel excited to show up for those things in life that do excite me, that are important to me. I'm not just going to be going through the motions, I'm going to be fully present. Final takeaway, guys, clarity doesn't come from just doing something. It comes from understanding it and knowing why you're doing it, and then writing it down and taking action towards it every single day. You need to be able to face the truth about what's driving you. And once you know your real reason for change, sticking to it becomes 10 times easier. Motivation by itself is not what you need to focus on when trying to make yourself better. Instead, you should be bracing yourself for the doubt and the discomfort that's going to come along from growing to a place that you've never been before. Number 2, prepare for doubt and discomfort. One of the first big obstacles that you're going to run into when making like a significant life change is dealing with that negative inner monologue, which accompanies a lot of self-doubt. Your brain is going to start to tell you that it cannot and should not do what you want it to do. Your brain is wired for efficiency. I mean, most of the organs in your body want things to stay the same, okay? Your liver doesn't know what's best for you. It just does its job. Your brain doesn't know what's best for it. It just does its job. But inside that brain, we have this thing called consciousness, and it allows us to peer into our future, and it lets us see ourselves in that future and what we want. And while your brain wants to stay the same, your consciousness knows that that shouldn't be the case. We should aim for growth, but your brain craves those familiar routines, even if those routines are keeping you stuck. Now, one of the things that Alex Hormozy always says is, you got to change the change. You can't have new and better without changing the habits and the routines that got you here in the first place. But the biggest challenge is going to depend on your resiliency against that discomfort, because these feelings of discomfort will happen. And what's going to happen as a result of that is that the little voice inside of your head is going to be right to some degree. That voice is going to tell you that you can't do this, you can't make it, you're not worthy. And you know what? Unless you brace yourself, you're going to believe it, because some days you're going to feel like that. Some days you're not going to feel the success that you've been wanting to feel. You're not going to be feeling the progress. And this idea is one of the most common concepts that I've ever come across in any personal development, because people write about a lot of different things. There are people who just write on how to do better in this area, and people write about how to do better in this area, but we doubt ourselves in every single one of those areas. So in many ways, this self-doubt, this negative inner monologue, pops up over and over again. Anytime we feel discomfort, that voice is going to pop up. Getting in shape is uncomfortable. Saving money is uncomfortable. Creating something for public view is uncomfortable. Being a leader is uncomfortable. Starting new or starting again is uncomfortable. Addressing your trauma is uncomfortable. Taking a business risk is uncomfortable. But if I asked you to just imagine what benefits are on the other side of that discomfort. It wouldn't be a huge stretch of the imagination for you to start seeing the possibilities that come by getting through that discomfort. The brain wants us to stop and slow down, but our strive for growth tells us we have to blast through that. But this is such a human condition that it is written about hundreds of times. Brene Brown calls them shame gremlins. The first time I ever heard it, it was called little voice syndrome. Gary John Bishop calls it your saboteur or your self-saboteur. Stephen Pressfield in The War of Art calls it resistance. Gay Hendricks in the book The Big Leap calls it the upper limit problem. And that's my favorite way to think about it. Seth Godin calls it the lizard brain, and James Clear just has a chapter addressing what the point of understanding this doubt is, because it's our brain just trying to stay comfortable. So yeah, I mean, like, this is written everywhere. I love the idea with Gay Hendricks calling it the upper limit problem, because like we're reaching our upper limit and getting through that is extremely uncomfortable, but it's almost proof of growth that we're outgrowing the environment we're in and we're trying to break past that upper limit. But as soon as we hit it, it's uncomfortable and our brain wants to shove us back down. So what do we do about it? What's our action step here? Number one, this is just a reframing strategy. And like, this is so difficult to do also in personal development. It's just like, oh, change the way that you think about it. I wish it was that easy. It takes so much practice, but I can promise you, it's an amazing feeling when you can just start running into the same problem that you've run into before. And you're like, oh, what an interesting opportunity. Because it's the exact same scenario, just the way that you think about it is a little bit different. So, number one, just start reframing the way that you think about this discomfort. Don't think like, oh, this feels wrong. Oh, I suck. Oh, I shouldn't do this. Think, this feels different. And that's because I'm growing. Good job me feeling uncomfortable because I'm getting to a point that is unfamiliar. That's probably because you're growing out of what you're used to. Number two, just get into the practice. Instead of avoiding the elephant in the room, identify one discomfort trigger that might hold you back this week. Something that's telling you, if you're trying to grow, that maybe you should just play it safe. Maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe you should just take it easy. Maybe you should pull back a little bit because, we don't want to work too hard. I mean, unless your actual safety is compromised, see if you can push through that a little bit. Write down the things that you catch yourself saying that you're uncomfortable about when it comes to trying to grow. Sometimes, like when you're eating healthy, it's like, oh man, eating healthy kind of sucks because I find myself hungry and snacky all the time. And even though I eat healthy during the day, I get so hungry because of it, I just chow down on snacks. Okay, that's your brain saying, this change is difficult. Doesn't mean it's bad. It means this change is difficult, and we want to try to keep you comfortable. Comfort kills. Your life does not care about your dreams. You do. And if you want to succeed, it has to be through the hurdles that life throws at you. Number three, be ready for life to get in the way. I've been wanting to write a book, many books, for several years. I started the first draft of my memoir when I was in high school, and it's not done. It's not even close to done. It's gone through different iterations. It's gone through different versions. I've changed my tone. I've changed the way that everything has changed about it. And there's just like, I still haven't finished it. And I mean, we're talking over 20 years ago. It was like the first draft of this. And so there was a point where the ghostwriter for Mike Michalowicz for his books was just hosting a nonfiction writing workshop. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of up my alley. Maybe this will give me like the push to do it. And the workshop was great. I got a lot of information to take home. But the big thing was just like, shut up, sit down and write. And so I was doing that consistently. This was like right in the middle of my start of personal development. So I was getting my personal schedule down. And guys, I was killing it. I was on a very consistent schedule. I was waking up early to write. There were times where I would like double my writing time. That was Writing Wednesday. I was getting so much done. I mean, I probably got 70 something pages of this. And then I had my daughter. Well, I didn't have my daughter, but my daughter was had. And that ruined everything. It was the best thing ever, but it ruined everything. All of my progress with getting my schedule on track, all of my consistency with writing, it completely went out the window. And I haven't gotten back on since. Like, I am still, to this day, not writing, even though I very much want to be an author. And that's like something that's difficult for me to work through, even though like I get why it happened. Like, having a child is a big thing. Now, and I know better people than me probably had a child and just stayed right on their schedule. But, this was right in the middle of me like trying to get my things together. So this was a huge derail. And what I want to say is like this isn't gonna stop, because as soon as you decide to stop for one thing, the next thing is gonna come in, and guess what? It's more convenient to stop and address the thing and then try to come back. But sometimes the convenience is never there again. And there's so many chances for people to improve that are never actualized because of things like this, right? Maybe you start hitting the gym, but then you get sick and you're gone for a while. And then, you know what? Okay, I'm going to hit the gym again next week. But my workload is actually kind of turned up a little bit, so maybe I'll wait until work slows down a little bit. And we get into the habit of deferring things that are important to us for things that are probably less important. Like, we still have to do them, but they're less important. The reason why people tend to achieve less than they really can isn't because they're lazy. It's because they're not prepared for real life to happen while they're trying to grow. Because they've decided it's a priority, but life doesn't care. And so if we want to make sure that it is cared for, the care is going to come from us. And this is going to happen while life continues to challenge us. If you don't plan for these obstacles, or if you don't brace yourself for them, you will get knocked off track. So what can we do about it? What's our action step? Number one is try to create a what if plan. What if I get sick? If you're trying to go to the gym more, okay, do something at home. It doesn't have to be super strenuous. You can even do a stretching routine. You can do a gentle yoga. Do something instead of doing nothing and allowing that problem, that issue, to completely offset the progress that you're making. What if my schedule changes again? Try to set a minimum version of this habit, of this thing that you're trying to change. If many things go wrong, what is at least the least that you can do? Action step number 2 is start to get in the habit of protecting your priorities. Life will continue to reprioritize for you until you're ready to reaffirm your boundaries. So if you're setting hard boundaries around your non-negotiables, these are the things that are so important to you that you should not bend or break, even if life is trying to throw things at you. These are the habits that are really going to make a change in your health or your quality of life. So as an example, again, with the workout, no matter what, I am going to work out for 5 minutes a day. Like, there are real life ridiculous examples that people have done. Like, in the maternity ward, they're about to have a child. Very distracting, very easy to knock you off course, but they still find themselves doing jumping jacks or taking long walks down the hallway or around the medical campus. They're still getting some kind of physical activity in intentionally, despite the circumstance around them. So no matter what, I'm going to do something. What is your backup plan? What is your bare minimum plan? When we're trying to grow, we imagine the absolute peak of our transformation. But we don't need a huge transformation. We just need a quick win. Set a challenge for yourself. A lot of people tend to fail in their goals because they completely overcomplicate the matter. I'm one of these kind of people. I want to do something, I want to have something done, and I think of the most circuitous route to get there. But sometimes, if you're thinking about small, meaningful, quick wins, you can set yourself up for continuous progress. The reason I say meaningful is like a win isn't a win, right? Just getting something done isn't always a win. You have to make sure that there's a clear line between where you are, what you've done or what you're trying to do, and where you're intending to go long term. So create a challenge for yourself. I will do X in this amount of time, or by this time, this thing will happen. Try to set a clear, defined goal and know what it means for this goal to be done, and set a very clear time frame of when you're going to do it. Or alternatively, for this amount of time, I will blank. Let's just say if you're trying to get in the habit of writing, give yourself a 30-day challenge where every day, no matter what, you are going to write. It doesn't matter if it's good, it doesn't matter if it's for a very long time, but for 30 days, I am issuing myself a challenge. I am going to do this thing. Challenges can help us create urgency and focus and momentum. Studies have shown that short-term, well-defined goals tend to be way better and way more effective than vague, long-term resolutions. The big thing here is that you must, as quickly as possible, take your idea or your goal, the concept of it, and turn it into actions. Then put those actions to a time frame or consistently do those actions for a period of time and get to it. Get out of the dreaming phase and get into the doing phase. What are we going to do about this? What's our action step? Should be kind of obvious at this point, but pick a challenge that stretches you but isn't overwhelming. So whatever it is, try to make it seem just a bit out of your reach, like it's going to be pretty challenging to get there. Don't set something that's just really easy, like, oh, grab my phone. Done, right? No, like you want to reach for it. So what does that look like? 30 days of reading, a workout, 5 days a week for 10 weeks, 1 week of social media detox, 1 week of no screens before bed. And then action step number 2 is try to set a minimum requirement so it's less likely that you quit. And if you really want to advance this, action step number 3 is get an accountability buddy who's going to hit you if you don't do it. Knowledge is power, but only if you use it. Number 5 is learn first, but don't get stuck there. So whenever we're trying to improve something, learning is step number 1. And it matters. It matters a lot. Before you execute, you should know what you are trying to execute. You should know how to execute it. But here's the trap. Learning feels like progress itself. And while learning is an accomplishment, it is not the ultimate accomplishment. Learning prepares you to move, but it itself does not move you. If you're always consuming but never moving, you're in a false productivity loop where you feel like you're consistently getting something done and you get that hit of dopamine. You're feeling rewarded, but nothing happens. And there's a lot of quotes again that kind of reflect this, imperfect action is better than perfect planning. It's good to prepare yourself, it's good to get ready, but all of that is always in the preparation for action, for acting upon what you're learning. So no matter what skill or what part of your growth you're trying to pursue, learn about it and then start to make significant action steps towards whatever you're learning. So action step number 1, and let's include that for this video. Every time you learn something, ask yourself immediately, how can I apply this today? And honestly, this is a fun exercise and it's a fun challenge, going back to another one, that you can consistently take part in, because sometimes it's very difficult to think about like how you can apply something today right as you're learning it, but it can be as menially relevant as it needs to be. But you still participate a little bit. You still try to apply it a little bit. Action step number 2, if you really want to challenge yourself, is apply a learn something, do something, teach something method, where as soon as you learn a concept, try to do it in some way, shape, or form, and then try to teach it to someone, not as an expert or as an authority, but like, hey, I'm kind of trying this thing out. Let me explain it to you and see if I really understand it for myself. I do this all the time, and there's times where I feel like I'm understanding something, and I come out with the most verbose way to explain it, which I think is kind of just demonstrating I'm using fluffy language to distract from the fact that I don't know what I'm talking about. And there's other times where I'm like, oh, it's kind of like this, and I create an analogy that's like very simple and easy to understand, and it reminds me like, okay, I think I understand this concept now. I mean, that's not a given rule, but it's pretty consistently true. So those are the 5 things. Number 1, take part in introspection. Number 2, prepare for doubt and discomfort. Number 3, be ready for life to get in the way. Number 4, set challenges for yourself. Number 5, learn, but don't get stuck there. Now, I want to hear from you. What's the first step that you're going to take? What's the first thing that you're going to apply? Drop that in the comments or however you can communicate with me. And if you want to go deeper on this, hit subscribe to the YouTube channel because I'm going to be posting a lot of content like this. Some of the things that I've went over in this video, we'll start to see a little bit in other videos, so it'll be a great review. There's also brand new things that I'm going to do which will tie in perfectly to what's going on here. This is, I think, a great way to start your personal development journey, but there's so many more concepts that we're going to be dealing with on this YouTube channel, and I would love for you to experience those if they're going to be helpful to you. I also have a Facebook group that you can join and be part of, where we're actually doing the action steps of a lot of the things that I'm saying here. We're following the format of a planner that I released earlier this year, which encourages people to make as much progress as they can in multiple areas of their life. If you're interested in learning more about this planner, go to www.elukubra.com. There will be a link provided somewhere. I hope my editor will be able to do that. And on that website, there is a newsletter that you can subscribe to, which will also give other follow-up tips, and you'll get to kind of know what I'm up to and stay in touch with some of the projects that I'm working on. If you found value in this, please remember to like and subscribe and throw in a comment there. Share it with someone that needs to hear this. Any engagement really tends to help me as a beginning YouTube content creator. Obviously, I'm always looking for ego metrics to keep me motivated to continue. If you've gotten this far, thank you so much for joining me, and please go to this video next. Bye!